Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's good to see you. This is a reading for Gemini rising, or if you have significant Gemini placement in your chart and are needing a neutral energy to help harmonize or balance masculine and feminine energies within the self, then this reading is for you. So Gemini, as I was sitting here getting ready for your reading, it was feeling kind of like a breakthrough of some sort, like some sort of understanding or epiphany, or just like it was kind of feeling like a relief, or like you've gotten through a difficult challenge is kind of how it was coming through to me. And you have here these two cards, the coins and delays, which I always find really interesting because the delays card I feel like is part of like the thing that was the challenge. It's like something, perhaps a manifestation was delayed, or you were being delayed, or something that you were trying to move towards. Perhaps there was a delay in getting there, right? It's kind of like hitting traffic, or like having to pause, or like being forced to take a time out in some way. And with the coins, this one to me talks about like currency exchange of some sort. So it could be within like a specific partnership, because there is like a hint of that in the cards here, but it doesn't have to be. So we'll get into like what else that could be talking about. But then you have here these three cards, which are so fascinating. So the purity ice, which I feel like this is the delay energy, right? Like this card always talks to me about sort of like being stuck in a place, right? Like not being able to move necessarily, or there's kind of like a dormancy that is needing to be awakened, that kind of thing. Because it's coming out with purity and also these cards, like the cleansing storms, I feel like part of this delay, whatever it was in order to like clear something, right? Like to cleanse something, or to purify something, perhaps like your energy or something like that. Especially here at the inner core solidity, this card has been coming out a lot, which talks about sort of like, this is the breakthrough, is kind of how it's looking to me, right? I always see this as kind of like something solid, right? Like something very stable, something very long-standing perhaps has been shattered in some way. Like breaking through almost like a wall is kind of how it's looking to me. Like breaking through a really significant obstacle maybe, or like a wall of some sort, and it's bringing in all this hope. And I feel like perhaps now this stage, so it could be that right now you're in a period of delay, right? Like something is delayed is just kind of how I'm gonna leave it. And it could be for this energy to come in, the cleansing storms, right? It's just kind of like to like clear away all the debris, or just like to cleanse something, or just like to prepare for whatever it is that is up ahead for you, is kind of how it's coming through. I really love this cleansing storms card, because it's anyways, it's coming through with this. So if we have like the Three of Cups, the Moon, and the Six of Wands, which is really interesting, because this Three of Cups I talk about as sort of like being removed from a group, right? It's like these are your friends or family or whatever, and it's like having to like go separate ways perhaps in order for you to fulfill some sort of whatever task, or go somewhere, or do something, or there's something that you're meant to experience. So this is kind of like perhaps like a goodbye, or not necessarily a goodbye. It doesn't feel necessarily permanent. Just kind of feels like gathering before you're going to part ways again, is kind of how that's feeling. Especially for it to come out with the Moon. This one here, especially from this deck, to me talks about like an overwhelm of emotions, right? So there could have been, especially with this cleansing storms, perhaps an overwhelm of emotion because of having to leave a group or be separated from a group, and perhaps that was causing a delay, right? Like just like gathering with loved ones for a while and perhaps not wanting to leave that group. But then you have here the success card, the Six of Wands. So because once I saw this card in a dream where it was kind of like the one in the middle here was being singled out, which is what I'm seeing with the Six of Wands, with all of these, the lights and the stars and all of that. It's like this one here is being perhaps selected or something like that, like just like needing to stand alone for a time for whatever reason. And it's kind of like there was a lingering with this group or this thing because perhaps this energy was overwhelming. That's the overall context of the reading. So we'll get into the actual reading part. So the first card out here, we have the Golden Rose, which is so interesting. So there may be a significant Capricorn in your life, or because the last time I wore this shirt was for the Capricorn rising video, I think it was, and I'll link it above, and this card came out, which is why it's significant. This specific combination of like colors was interesting. Anyways, so this card talks to me about like there's some sort of secret that is being kept, is kind of how it's feeling. I have no idea how or what that is, but I feel like it's going to be made clear to you soon, right? Some sort of secret, perhaps, or like something unknown is happening around you. And I want to say that you're not necessarily clear on what that is. And it may be that you're perhaps perceiving it as being a delay when it's actually not a delay. Maybe. I'm not sure about that. But what's really interesting here is the next card here you have is the Lightning card, which talks about like it seems like, which is so interesting because this card, the last Capricorn reading that had this card in it, it was talking about something blooming, right? Like something becoming, something like some really significant part of the work was becoming realized in some way. But then this Lightning card comes in with this message of like, sometimes something that appears perfect or done is actually very far from the truth, where it's like, it's actually just, this is just the beginning, is kind of how it's feeling. So it could be something like that, where it's like, perhaps there was this energy of like, maybe you thought something was completed, or you thought something was in a further stage, but perhaps it's like this is just the beginning of it, maybe. Which is not to say it's anything like, again, with the delay energy, I feel like it's not necessarily that it's like a step back, or it doesn't necessarily feel like it's gonna set you back a lot, but it just kind of feels like there's something here that I want to say that perhaps you had to take a step back in order to get something, which is really interesting. But it might feel like very temporary is kind of how that's feeling, right? Like a temporary setback or something like that. Anyways, here, because you have here the Fury Bushfires card. This was the first card out. And I feel like this is something that's being cleansed, right? Like this is, again, because we're in Mercury retrograde right now, this feels like a very past energy that has come up again, or that has resurfaced in some way, like even just like in your memories or something like that, in order to be cleansed. And I feel like you have done that. I feel like that's really significant here. This feels like a breakthrough of some sort, that there was a past energy that could have been associated with anger, or some like perhaps anger towards someone, or someone else having anger towards you, or just there's a dynamic or a situation where there's anger or whatever involved in it, right? So, but I feel like that's being cleared now, right? So it could be that somebody did something in the past to you that was really harmful, or whatever it is, right? Like that'll play out in different ways for each of you. But what you have next here, which I absolutely love, is this growth card, right? Which is kind of like, once you clear this energy, it's kind of like that's when the growth happens, which is so interesting. So it doesn't have to be anger. Usually how I see this is like, because anger, when we experience that, it should be sort of like the best way in which to channel this energy is through our creativity, or like creating something, or using it as sort of motivation to create change in our environment in some way for the better, right? For a positive kind of energy. But sometimes we can hold on to anger in a really sort of like self-destructive way, right? Like if we hold on to anger, if we don't release it in a way that's very productive or creative or constructive, perhaps, it can cause a lot of holding, which may have been that might have been delayed energy, right? So maybe just like purifying or cleansing some energy that perhaps you were holding on to in a way that was not helping you or not serving you anymore, right? Because it's like, as soon as this energy is released, you have this growth plants card, which is really lovely. So this I see as being a very sort of ancient and complete and wholesome energy, right? Like something that's very well established. But because it's coming out with the lightning card, right? Because it's coming out with the lightning, it's kind of like, yes, you have accomplished something really significant, right? Like there was a big breakthrough or a big, I just want to frame it as being sort of like a release of a very tough energy in some way. And it's giving you new life, absolutely, right? It's like giving you all of this growth and abundance. Especially with this autumn card, which I really love because this came out underneath the golden rose. So it's kind of like, this is talking about a completion. Absolutely. It's about collecting the bounty and also having a lot to share with others as well, right? So I feel like because you've gone through a significant breakthrough, or because you've gone through, you've released something perhaps that was absolutely not serving you. It's like you have all of this like gold bounty to collect and also to share with others is what this card is coming through with. And I feel like here, which is so interesting, this conjunction card coming out next, which is like a union card, right? Universal love card is what this is talking about, which is so lovely. This card came out for me yesterday. I didn't do a reading yesterday, but it like just when I was pulling cards for myself, this card came out, and I was really drawn to these hearts. And then I went to go see my grandmother. She needed to go do some grocery shopping, and she had this purse that had these like little hearts on it, which looked exactly like that, which I found so I don't know. I find things like that really interesting. So anyways, it could be just talking about like coming together with others, right? Because it's kind of feeling like, well, that's interesting because as I was saying in this card, right, there was a coming apart, not a coming apart. It's kind of feeling like separated from a group, right? So it could be that that's temporary, or it could even be like leaving one group or leaving something like this behind, a really angry energy, and moving into something that's more love-based, which is really interesting. So it could be closing off a cycle where there was a lot of, it doesn't have to be anger. It could just be like closing off a cycle that, because I this kind of looks like a forest fire, or just like, especially with this, right? It's kind of like this area here. It could be something that like needed to be rebuilt, because how I see forest fires symbolically is kind of like there was too much of whatever, right? Like too much that was like, it's almost like an energy that needed to restart in some way, because there was like an overabundance, if that's even possible. It's like there was too much, or like something that was becoming uncontrollable in some way. And so the forest fire energy comes in as almost like a reset button, right? Like that might be something like that. So it's like closing off that cycle, which is really interesting. And then for you, moving into something that is like love-based or allows for more growth, which is really interesting, because you do have this card. So you have the joy music card, which is kind of looking like, because this landscape is a desert, right? Which to me, symbolically, the desert represents an area or an environment that doesn't have a lot of abundance, right? So moving from a place that is kind of like, there was so much here, but for some reason it was destroyed, or there was like a needing to be reset because perhaps there was something about this energy that wasn't quite in alignment with you. But it's like, so having to start again perhaps, but there's so much more joy in this energy, right? It's such a different energy than fury. It's like, at least here you are happy is kind of how that's feeling, which is really interesting and also difficult. Especially because these cards coming out next here, you have the Sulfur card, which to me talks about kind of like, there's benefit in difficult energies, right? Like something that perhaps like the medicine tastes bad, but it's exactly the healing thing that you need. So it could be something like that, where there's a situation where it's like something that sucks about it, right? Something that's unpleasant, like the desert, like a lack of resources, but that's exactly what you need because it connects you with joy, or just like a lightness of being or something like that. Because the next card to come out here is the Endurance Rock, which is really interesting because this is the difficulty energy, right? Like this to me talks about like having to endure something that is perhaps a lack of resources, because it's kind of like, I'm always drawn to sort of this dome here. So it's kind of like the forest around you has burnt up in some way, whatever that means, right? It's no longer there. It's kind of like you're the only thing standing, but you're protected by this dome, right? So it's kind of like, in a sense, you are solitary, right? It's like you're standing alone. You're in this energy. You've been separated from or removed from a group. And although this energy is difficult, this is exactly what you need, is kind of how it's coming through today for you, which is really interesting and kind of difficult. But then you have here the Water Creation card, which is really lovely, because this talks to me about like something emerging from the depths, right? Or it could be this, right? Because of this moon energy here, again, is the overwhelm. So I'm seeing it today as being like, there was a period of overwhelm, right? All of this sort of watery energy coming in to cleanse or purify or like put out the destructive fire that was surrounding you in some way. So like the fire is out, but now it's kind of like you're the only one left standing here, is kind of how that's feeling to me, which is really interesting. And I feel like it has, because the cards that are coming out next, I feel like perhaps there may be like, I feel like you're not completely alone in this energy, this Endurance Rock, because what the tarot cards that are coming out next is very strongly suggesting that there's a partnership involved in this, like a significant other that's here with you. But because this is a rising video, which talks about sort of like the neutral energy that sort of brings masculine and feminine energies together, it could also just be two aspects of yourself as well. So take that how it resonates. But I'll go through what these cards are. So the first two cards that came out were the Two of Cups and the King of Pentacles, right? So the Two of Cups I'm seeing as being like either a significant partnership or you and a spirit guide or something like that, or you and like two different aspects of yourself even. So take that how it resonates. I'm just going to describe it how I see it in the cards, which is this. So then you also have the Hermit and the Queen of Pentacles. So obviously like the King and the Queen of Pentacles are a partnership. I'm seeing the Hermit today is kind of like this endurance rock energy, right? It's like I feel like there was this period of time where, and perhaps this is upcoming for you, where it's like there's having to sort of go inward while all of this sort of energy stirs up and stirs up around you is kind of how it's feeling. Like I'm just seeing you as being in this protected bubble while everything else around you goes through a significant transformation of some sort, like a significant reset or something like that. But so here, the King and the Queen of Pentacles. So again, this could be a partnership. It could also be, so for the King of Pentacles, I sort of see this as being one who has a lot to share is what I see with this one. The Queen of Pentacles, I see as one who's very nurturing, right? So it's kind of like, but again, the King of Pentacles is also sort of protected within this. So it's kind of feeling like you and this significant partnership are like inside this dome, right? Where it's almost like extremely peaceful inside this dome, where everything else is going through transformation, but it's almost like the two of you are extremely content here is kind of how it's coming through. It's like there's this sort of like hermiting energy that's connecting the two of you, which is really interesting. And then the next two cards here, you have the King and Queen of Swords, which I really love because they're like back to back, right? So the King of Swords I see as someone who like does a lot of planning or like seeks solitude in order to gain clarity, right? That's kind of how I see the King of Swords. Queen of Swords is also very similar, but today it's coming through as being kind of like prefers solitude just because that's sort of how I'm seeing the Queen of Swords. She just prefers to be on her own is kind of how that's feeling to me. But again, it's all within this energy, right? All happening here. Where it's, I have no idea like how to explain this, because it could be that it's like these cards to me often talk to me like it kind of looks like long distance, right? Like very especially when they're facing like this, that to me really talks to me about like a long distance relationship of some sort. But when they're back to back, it's kind of like it just feels like a very reciprocal and I want to say stable. Like it feels very stable and secure. Whatever this relationship is, there's a lot of like independence as well. It's what's coming through. It's like these ones here are in a partnership, right? With the Two of Cups in a partnership, but both are very independently secure is kind of how it's feeling, or independently capable, right? It's kind of like they are in a partnership, whoever these two energies are, and it could be your masculine and feminine energies within yourself, so apply it how it resonates for you, where it's like each person or each counterpart perhaps is in the partnership but doesn't depend on the other one necessarily to get through is kind of how it's feeling like, right? It just feels extremely interdependent is the word that I'm looking for. Anyways, what's coming out next here though is I feel like once this sort of cleansing storm passes, because I feel like the delay here is kind of just like clearing out all of the energies that are around, or like cleansing or purifying or whatever, the energies that are in the environment around this partnership or this dome here. And I feel like, so first of all, here next you have the 10 of Cups and the 3 of Pentacles, which I feel like I don't have to explain that much. It just feels like very fulfilling and very cooperative and collaborative. But I feel like there's this energy of like having to, with the 7 of Cups and the 10 of Swords, this is kind of like the ending, right? It's like the 7 of Cups here is talking to me about like having to decide what to do next. And the 10 of Swords is a very sort of like ending energy, right? Like just going through or waiting for the end to sort of play out as it will, and then finding like sort of the new start. And what I really love here is that you have the Ace of Pentacles, which again is kind of bringing in this energy of like the work has just started. There's been a significant breakthrough, but it's kind of like this is now the new start, because this, especially coming through with like a seed, right? It's like the forest fire, metaphorically. The surroundings have been destroyed in some way, right? And it's kind of like they're needing to replant now, or needing to rebuild, or like planting new seeds in order for this like new forest to begin. It's like you're not starting from zero. You still have this energy, right? The core, or the main foundation, or this partnership perhaps is the foundation. But it's like you do have to rebuild everything else that was around you before whatever this energy was that came in. But then you have the Justice here to end, which I really love, because this card talks about when you ask the universe for something, sometimes you just have to wait so that the universe can fill your cup. If you move from this position, it's kind of like the universe, like the water will just spill everywhere. So it's like, just hold steady, hold still. There is something coming in. I want to say that will shift the dynamic of whatever is happening here. It's kind of just saying to be patient. So Gemini, I'm going to leave the reading there. If you're interested in the extended, you can find the link in the description box below. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.